seem to get anybody to join in on the conversation, so I'll be talking at you. Or as my friend from Kentucky says, holler at me later. So this is my company, as you see, hopefully on the screen. And we work all over the country. And even though the name is branding, that's where I started out, but we do much more now. My talk is about SEO. I hope you find it informative and that you learn something. Typically, when I talk to a client or not a client, just anyone in a networking event, ask them how their website's doing, they really don't know. And what you don't know can hurt you. Everybody knows the old days are gone, and the new biggest ad in the Yellow Pages is being first on Google. So today, I just want to give you an overview. And let me tell you, I don't have to tell you, the competition is fierce out there on the web, especially when you have huge players that are dominating the search results. But there are ways to find your way to get some results, and I'll discuss them. When I say dominated, these are what I'm talking about, and you're familiar with all of these. There's, of course, realtors at the top all the time, and that's good. I mean, you all use it, and you depend on people clicking on it to find you. But if you want your own site to be found, that's another hurdle. Now, Mike and Michelle, I have them highlighted because I'm going to talk about them a lot. So even if the big guys win the rankings war, we can still direct people to the website in many ways. And when they get there, they want to see something personal. They want to get to know you. They want to make a decision that, hey, maybe this is the person I want to work with. And we've all heard, the know, like, and trust. That's what it's all about. What am I all about? I want to give you a little confidence that I actually know what I'm talking about. I've been building websites for 20 years and been doing SEO for over 10. This is a client of mine, Tampa Veterinary Hospital. They rank number 2 in Tampa. Pool Service Brandon, number 2. I should say number 2 is not bad. What's bad is he's not working on his reviews. But all 3 of these at the top will get the same amount of clicks typically, and the reviews may play into that. Of course, I practice what I preach. Web Design Tampa, I should show up when you search that. So back to SEO. What is it that makes you rank on Google? A lot of people, there's a lot of mystery, there's a lot of myths. Everybody thinks they know something about SEO, but we've been practicing it well for a long time, so we actually know what works and what doesn't. And the 2 main things are content and links, and we'll go into each of those in pretty deep detail. I like to say content is king, and I do like to use a lot of visuals. This presentation typically would last 2 hours, but I'm going to try to make it through real quick and cover everything that we need to. In fact, I should probably set a timer. So, content is king. What do we mean by that? Why is it important? Because Google indexes everything that you put on your website. So it needs to be pertinent to what you want to try to rank for. It needs to have the keywords. It needs to talk about the things specifically that you offer that would make you stand out from the next company. But story is queen. So if content is king, story is definitely queen. And the queen usually gets her way. So what I'm saying here is that your personal story and what is unique about you is much more interesting than having a lot of listings pop up on the first page with a search bar. Anybody can do that, but we want to create something that people are going to identify with, that's going to make them remember you, whether it's a company or an agent. Now, when it comes to content, we're talking about pages, lots and lots of pages. And I'll show you well, I showed you the details on some of those. You know, they have millions of pages, some of them. Now, we're not going to go there, but it is possible to get enough pages to make a difference. And everything is organized in a way where it's all passing its strength up to the top. So the third row or the fourth row, it might be your blog. And all of those pages are also content. So everybody talks about the Google algorithm, right? And, you know, they say there's at least 200 different things, but a lot of people don't know about the history of algorithm. And what it really is the algorithm, because as we all know, Al Gore was the inventor of the internet, and, you know, he's famous for doing the Macarena there. So that's just a SEO. People think about the code, right? And nobody's interested in learning about this. It's kind of like looking at this. It's like looking at Greek, you know, it's almost the same. But in that code, there's some important basics, and you don't need to know where to put this, or you don't have to know how to code, because WordPress has what are called plugins, which I'll cover in a little bit, where you can add a lot of these things very easily. Tags are called meta tags. This is what someone might tell you, you know, your site, the meta tags are all messed up. Well, they're important, and the title tag is most important, and this description is next important. Keyword tag is not much importance anymore at all. But if I was to compare the way the site looks and the way the Google results are, so at the top you're seeing the code. In the yellow, that description will show up in your Google listing, and right above it is the title tag that will show up typically as in the blue on Google. So those two things are like an index that you're forming with just a little story about what the page is about. And here we are. Now, WordPress is the best platform to use. We custom build all of our sites using WordPress because it is a user-friendly way to have a system, a content management system, where you can actually go in and change things. And 40% of the sites out there are WordPress, so you can find someone to work on a site in WordPress without much problem. These are all the pages on a particular site that we did. I'm going to talk a little bit about. And you can see this particular page is talking about landscaping supply in South Tampa. So this store is actually north of I-4 in near Carrollwood. When you go into WordPress, you'll see how easy they make it. You can just put your title in, you can put your description in. If you get to too many words, they will tell you by the color of that bar that you've gone too far. And the words you're putting in need to relate to the page, and they need to relate to what you want people to find you for. So every page doesn't want to say real estate agent in South Tampa. You want to make it specific to what you're talking about on that page. Throughout the rest of this presentation, I'm going to be talking about this particular search. And I just needed to dig into something, and I chose this keyword phrase, realtor in South Tampa, Florida. So to understand the results that you'll see on Google, I just sort of made it a little easy here. At the top, of course, is where you're putting in what you're searching. Now next, you're seeing Google screened results, which is similar to local services that you see for plumbers and locksmiths, garage door. They've opened that up to a lot of trades, and they've opened it up to attorneys and other professionals like real estate agents. And I will show you next about Google Screened. But underneath that, you'll see the ads. And take note of this, agentpronto.com. They showed up in almost every search I did. And I can see why. They spend, you know, almost 70 grand a month on pay-per-click. Underneath that, you're going to start to see the organic results, and we're going to go to the local results under that, but the first organic result seems to always show up above the map, and that is realtor.com. But back to the Google screened, you can search that Google screened for real estate agents, and it'll give you a link. You click on requirements by category, and it'll bring you into this area where you can actually just see that it amounts to, background check, liability insurance, license requirements. You have to have a certain number of reviews above a certain threshold. I don't have any clients that use this, but once you are qualified, then you are privileged enough to be able to send money to Google for these ads. But let's admit it, they look pretty snappy, and when you click on more real estate agents, you end up with this. Then you can scroll up and down. I clicked on Yanni, and I got details about that agency, that agent, including quite a few things here. So it's like a little mini landing page. Now I'm going to go back to that where we left off and go down further underneath the map, where you're going to see the local 3-pack. And that's very important because almost half of the searchers are going to click on that, those top 3. The problem is when you click on view all, there's many more listings below that. And if you were number 4, you would not show up on the top 3, obviously. Those change. Remember, I'm still only searching realtor in South Tampa. If I changed it to South Tampa realtor, I'd get different results. If I left out the word in, I would get different results. If I put realtor near South Tampa, I would get different results. So it's a complicated game, but when you get into it, you can understand what it takes. And I'm just trying to give you an overview of how to do better overall. Ads can show up in the local results as well. They're always marked with a little ad that I circled. And then the 2 that I dug into a little show up, number 1 and number 2, and that's the name of their agencies there. So now I'm going down to page 9. Bear in mind, when you go into the map section, you've got 20 on each page. So that means there's 12 pages, 240 different Google My Business listings are trying to show up on Google. I have a tool that I use to get a better read on where exactly people show up, because people are always moving. They're in their car, they're driving, they may be at lunch, they do a search. So here we are with Mike and Michelle at the top, and you can see their average position, the arrow at the right, is number 1. And they're doing so much better than everyone else for this search. If you go down further, you'll see that they're below the top 3. And that report I can zero in on, I can make the grid as big as I want to. And from looking at this, if I was in my car and I was in Seffner over there, I can see I'm still number 1. If I was in Clearwater, they're still number 1. So it's a real handy tool. This was selling South Tampa. They're a little bit more spread out in their numbers. Some are 4s. Most of them are in the top 3, so they're doing quite well. And here's how theirs looks bigger. And then this one is not doing well. The only place they're showing up number 1 is in their office, basically. And still, but number 10 is not like it's really bad, because you're within striking distance of getting into the top 3. So I talk about Google all the time. There's others involved here, but to be honest, they don't matter much anymore, because Google is the gorilla and they're the chimps. Here's how it actually splits out in the United States, and DuckDuckGo is actually almost surpassing Yahoo now, so they're up and coming. So here's just a way to think of the Google algorithm machine, I like to call it. I use the Google colors here, And it seems very complicated, but just think of it this way. You put your content in here and you get your web rankings out there. So if you don't put any content in, you're not going to get any web rankings. Now, what you rank for is always part of the process. Oh yeah, Jared, it is called Local Falcon. You've heard of that, huh? Very cool. And it's not too expensive either. You can do a few free searches with it. But back to the subject. So homes for sale, you're going to get millions of competitive results. Realtor, a little bit less, but it's still almost impossible to think about ranking. Realtor in Brandon, if you have the time and energy or the budget to really try to get it, you can probably get it. Then if you start adding more terms to it, that's why we call it a long tail. We're just adding more things. So by the time you get the Spanish speaking relocation realtor in Brandon, your chances of ranking are much, much better. So back to our keyword phrase. Remember, that's what I've been searching. And I have another way of looking at things here. I did come up with this site, and it has 100 pages, which, you know, that's commendable, but the site is awful. And the arrow at the top shows that it's not secure. And many people will not even stay on the site when they see that. And it's as simple as just buying an SSL certificate and having it attached to your web hosting. So there's no excuse for that. They're in number 164 in the local. So they're way down, many pages down. They're not going to get found. And they're not in the top 50 pages or the top 500 results of Google. And I looked at some other pages on their site, so it doesn't even make sense to stay there because nobody would read this. This was the one, remember, what was it? Selling South Tampa. They were coming in second, and they rank well. They have a lot of pages. Many of those pages are probably brought in from the MLS, and I think that they're actually indexed from the looks of things, which is great. And they're ranking organically as well. So they're really doing good technically, but when you get to the site, it's just, you know, it's not personal. It's not like, oh, I want to do business with these people. If I just want to search, I can go to Zillow or Realtor.com or one of the other ones. But if you're trying to make a connection with somebody, this is the one that won my search, Mike and Michelle. And lots of pages, but they're personal. You can look at them all, and they're not all super personal, but they have nice photos. They're arranged nicely. It looks nice and clean. It's readable. For this search, they're always number one. They are number 15, so they're on the second page organically, which is not good, but they could probably work on that and get higher. But I did find some other things interesting about them the more I get into it that really surprised me. And this is a deeper look at their site, just to give you an idea. This is one of their blogs. And, you know, it's a perfect way to niche or to narrow down what you're talking about. So if there is somebody, and there's bound to be somebody or a few people throughout the year that are looking for a condo near a dog park, you have a much better chance of ranking if you have this. And you can tell they've been doing consistent work on this blog. It started in 2012, so that's almost 10 years. And that's what it takes. That's why competing now, it's tough unless you've already got things started. But there's no better time to start than the present, right? But even if you can't show up in rankings, you can have a site that engages people to say, yeah, I think I want to call this person. When they organize the different neighborhoods, they're all very well done. There's something written about them. There's much more information below about the schools, and I'm sure that all feeds from some sort of database, but it's still all good. A sitemap's important. That lets Google know what is on the site, and they will index it quicker. So you see I don't know if you can see that, but the one I'm pointing at there actually opens up to this, where again, it's like a typical listing, but it's packaged nicely. So many sites I looked at, it just was not packaged well at all. But this, easy to look at, easy to save. You can scroll down and look further. But here's what really surprised me. You know, all of this beautiful website and all the pages they have, in reality, they only ranked for that thing that I chose to search. So it takes a little bit away from their award, but they're doing a great job. But you want to be able to rank for these other things. So if you're in South Tampa, you want to be able to rank for homes for sale in Davis Islands. So they're number 17 there. So if they worked on that, they could probably start showing in the local results for a lot of these areas. Everybody knows this. Everybody uses their phone all the time to search. And unless you're buying something that's pretty expensive, which is a house, of course, you know, you can do your initial looking, but then you're going to get on the desktop and dig into it. But there is no such thing as a mobile website anymore. There's a responsive design. So this is a client of ours in Clearwater. So if you happen to have a Hellcat or a Lamborghini, this is the place you want to go. You could eat dinner off the floor. It's so clean. So everything on that site is repackaged and into a slim view, and it is one site. It just responds to the screen it's on. Everybody knows this. Local search is where it's at. So you got to get ready to capture that market because your buyers are local. Well, a lot of them are. So this is what I'm talking about here. You know, I just did a few different searches. And not even local, I'm saying hyper local. So if you search realtor in Apollo Beach, you can see those dots on the map. They're all very close to Apollo Beach. It's pretty difficult to have an office in South Tampa and show up here in the local results. Now remember, all of these are tied to a Google My Business page, and I'm assuming most of you know that. And local search results, I'm going to talk about what influences them and why certain ones show up, all right? So it's there are different things on local and organic, but they overlap. I'm sorry if I missed things in the comments because I'm looking at my screen straight on. So organic results, as you can see down here, strength of website does reflect in the ability to show up in the local. So organic means the website, all the content on the website. So if you show up on the first or second page in organic, then your chances of showing up locally are much better. But then it's going to vary based on the location of the searcher, which you saw by the grid, and the location of the business. So, you know, for me to rank for Web Design Tampa, I needed to get an address that was at the Central Business District of Tampa, at ground zero for Tampa. Citation listings, I'm going to talk about those a little bit. They're important, and these only relate to local. And I'll talk about what they are. Reviews, of course, they're important for many reasons. And there's, I know you've probably heard of review generation software or systems you can use. We use one called GatherUp, and we like it a lot. And it sends an email to the customer, asks them how likely they would be to recommend you to a friend or colleague. If they click 9 or 10, then they'll get delivered directly to the Google platform to leave a review. And Google reviews and Facebook reviews and Yelp reviews are really the only ones that are important. And then again, the last thing, completeness of the profile. So you want to have a lot of good photos on your Google My Business. You want to have your description completely filled out, your hours, just do everything you can possibly do on that profile. I already covered this, so there's a better chance of showing up on the top if you are in the organic results. But there's only room for 3 at the top. So I made this slide actually when I was making a presentation to a real estate agent in South Tampa, and the results were a little bit different then, but Mike and Michelle were still at the top. And then I looked at other ones that were, who's going to go in 13 pages to find someone? Remember in the beginning I said content and links were the 2 things. So links gives your website power. And this I think is funny. Oops, I went too far ahead. Where if you listen to this, have you gotten any of these calls? Oh my gosh. I get those almost every day. It's terrible because they're taking advantage of people. They act like they're Google. I get my clients calling me and saying, hey, Google called me today. Google doesn't call you, so it wasn't them. So citations are not the kind that you get from the parking division in the city of Tampa, although I have gotten a few, as you see. This is a citation, and that looks like a mess, right? So if you look at the right side, you'll see all the different places where you can put a listing for your business for free. And that's all it is, a citation listing. It has your name, address, phone number, website, description, photographs. You don't want to use a service like Yext or any of those that lead to Yext, because doing it yourself and controlling it yourself is much better. And it is a little bit of legwork to do it. There's some big players that once you get on Info Group or Axiom, they're going to be propagating your information to the smaller ones. And what we do is we start with a citation worksheet and has all the information. So every one of them can be the same. Some may not allow as much of a description. Others may allow pictures. So I have a file for pictures. Some don't allow it. Now this I just threw in there just to let you know that incremental changes on a website usually will not make any difference. And the only way in the competitive world we live in to make an impression on Google is to drop a really big change at once. So like we just signed up a new client in Stewart, Florida, and we'll be building his website for about 2 to 3 months. And then overnight, his website will change from the old one to the new one. And that's where you'll see a big increase, which is what we saw for this client. And I am using my clients as examples because, it's real stuff that really happened. So here, again, the personal angle. You don't look at this and say, oh, yeah, I know Phil. I've gone to Cypress Creek. And it makes you want to go there because it's quite a motley crew, but they're really nice guys. So you rank here, Landscape Supply Tampa. They're showing up #1 locally and organically. And if I look, this is another software I ran, remember, for Mike and Michelle. This is just an example of when I ran it for Cypress Creek. And you can see that they're ranking in a lot of the smaller communities. New Tampa, very important market for them. They actually rank in South Tampa, and they're not at the top, but they're at the top organically and #3 locally. And the reason why is because they have a page that's totally dedicated to doing just that. So it's highly optimized, talking about South Tampa throughout the whole page. What is that software? Oh, it's called Rank Tracker, and it's built by Link Assistant. Now, Google Analytics, extremely important to have on your website. Google offers so many free tools. One of the other speakers was talking about some of that stuff earlier, but analytics is one of the most important. You need to see how your websites are doing. Being able to have a long-term view. Like this is just 1 year over the past year for Cypress Creek. So there was an increase that doubled the visits. you can see the time on the site. You can see what town they're from. You can't see everything. You can't see their name and call them up, obviously, but it gives you a good read on what's going on and how things are improving. So if I see the time on my site is, 15 seconds, then probably not doing a good job. See what pages are visited, which is real important to a lot of, I do work for a lot of construction, home services, and we're trying to, gauge which pages are working. And then this is a client I've had for 10 years. That means I'm old. So you can see we've increased every year for 10 years. And to do that, you have to keep up with it, like that commitment to continuing to work. This is a really old screenshot, so you can tell how long I've been doing this. I didn't bother changing the dates, but the point is, with the website only, we got a certain amount of traffic. When we added the blog, after about 6 months, the traffic took off. So a blog is just more pages, and it's more consumer-friendly content. So, back to the ones that Michelle and Mike and Michelle were doing, things people are interested in. Then you can take those and post them on social media, which gives you more traction. And I don't have to tell you that people tell you this are lying, so don't give them any money. Let's talk about ways to win despite the odds that I talked about earlier. All right, emphasize the need for a personal branded website. If you work for an agency, their website may give you leads, and that's great, but maybe they'll allow you to create, a website of your own that can talk about you and why you're a good choice, and then make that personal connection. And you may end up being able to set up your own Google My Business. You could use your home address for that. Maybe the realtor I talked to, the agency was so behind the times with the web, they said, sure, she could set up a Google My Business using their address. And a lot of attorneys do that as well. They have their own Google My Business at the law firm at the same address. And then you got to build out that listing, drive visits offline. We all network, so that's driving people there. And the idea is to get people to your website through social media, through all ads. You can use Google ads, Facebook ads, and then slowly you're going to be getting those organic visits that you really want. And it's just a long-term commitment. It's part of your business plan. It's like as important as having an accountant or who knows what, childcare, let's say that. So you want to become that likable person and make that good impression. And branding is very important. Personal branding and the visual that you have on there. I'm going to go back to Mike and Michelle, look at their Facebook page. So that's a movie at the top, which is pretty cool. The aquarium. And you can see, they have 839 people. So it looks pretty presentable, right? They have a nice logo. But when they have the call now, which is great. They have a message pop up. And the thing is, if somebody does do that, you got to be there. Because if you don't answer them within a certain amount of time, they're already on to the next person. You all know that. But looking at their post, they only have 2 likes and 1 comment. And that post was done, 3 days ago. So that tells me they're not spending any money with Facebook. And you're not going to get any results unless you spend money with Facebook. So back to Cypress Creek. If I look at their post, we got 50, almost 60 link clicks. That means 60 people clicked on that learn more or the link above and hopefully read the blog. And when they were reading the blog, it means they were on the website, which means we made an impression on them and they learned about the store if they didn't know about it. And, a lot of them have been visiting. So it's a very easy company to work for because there's a lot of people that are interested in this kind of thing, especially this article, urban gardening, So this drives a lot of visits to your website. I've had some blogs that show up. I have a painter in Connecticut, and he was ranking #1 for how to clean flat paint walls. And that was actually getting more visits than his homepage was. So granted, they were coming from all over the country, but it was still giving a lot of strength to his website, and a certain portion of them were coming from Connecticut as well. Now this boost it only cost $4. So if I didn't do the boost, I probably this community's, I mean, his fans are pretty engaged, so he might have gotten 10 clicks, but we're getting clicks for very low prices on Facebook, much lower than Google Ads, much, much, much lower. So Google Ads is something I'm going to get to, but the audience here, see, I set the total budget, 4 days, $4, and the audience, you can be very granular. You can say exactly where you want it to show up. And as you can see, the interest is where I really zeroed in and, got into the people that are interested in this. And remember, when they click on something and they interact with it, you can go in afterwards and invite them to like your page. But that's a social media presentation. And I know I don't click on ads that much. I know a lot of people don't click on ads that much, but they get a lot of clicks and they can drive business. And the costs, from what I've found, are not astronomical. They're like between probably $2.50 and $5 a click in the real estate business as a whole. So these stats would say that, more than half the clicks go to organic. Those stats from a source, who knows if they're right, but Search Engine Land said 63% of the people would click on an ad, and that businesses make more than they spend. So why wouldn't you do it? It should be a part of your plan. I mean, ads are gotten much better. Google's done a much better job at delivering ads that people might be interested in. And obviously, a lot of people spend money there. That's why they're mega million billions. So here's a screen that shows me that one that ranked #1 in ads for that search we've been looking at. And I can see their monthly spend. I can see how many clicks they're getting. And, you can divide it out if you're good at that. That's pretty expensive per click. So they're paying a lot more to be #1, but you don't need to be #1 in an ad. You can show up at the bottom of the page and still get clicks. Remember, sometimes there's 3 or 4 ads at the top. There's local ads. There's the featured local ads at the very top. And then at the bottom, there's 3 or 4 ads. So display ads. You may see these ads if you go to other sites, if you're on CNN or other news sites. And these are actual screenshots of me testing this ad to make sure it was showing up. So they work, and they work especially well for my client in South Tampa. They're very easy to set up. You just need graphic artists to create them. So South Tampa Vet created these, and we only targeted South Tampa. So you can imagine the saturation that he got with these showing up all over the place, and it drove a ton of new clients because it was just such a great call to action. And it is legit. There's no strings attached. They're banking on the fact that when someone goes there, they're going to be so impressed that they want to stay with Tampa Vet. And of course, if there's anything that needs to be done, there's going to be services that need to be charged. But Tampa Vet is actually building a new building right near the corner of North Howard and Kennedy. We were just out there yesterday with our drone doing some video, and inside doing video. It's a lot of the building is completed, and John, the owner, is very good at that stuff. So we just give him the assets, and he makes a video on Facebook. So you should follow Tampa Vet on Facebook, and you should actually use them because they're very good. Looks like I'm getting done early here. See, I was trying to talk too fast. So do all the right things in the right order and do them completely and consistently. That's my motto. Sometimes I say it a little differently, but the problem is so many companies don't even know what to do, or they do the wrong things. They don't do them in the right order, and they never finish them, and they don't keep doing them. So then they wonder why they're not getting results for their client, or if the client's doing it themselves. It's like, well, it's not working, so I'm going to stop. Well, it's pretty hard to get results. You got to, like anything, you got to work at it. This is my team, and several people are in Florida, others are in Pittsburgh, and then there's a few in other places around the country. And that's it for me. So if anybody has any questions, I'm looking at the chat in the side there. I hear crickets. Does our whole team consult on the websites? Is that what you're asking? We give, analysis of websites. Yeah, no obligation. It's just, oh, of course. Yeah, I have a meeting tomorrow at the office here with a company that I never even knew about. And the guy lives about 2 blocks from my house. And he's a professional drone company, and they do very, very high-end projects. They just did I think the State House in Philadelphia, maybe. They had to do a survey of it, probably for some work that needs to be done. But he does infrared scanning, and so he found us. So we're going to come in. I'm going to do a little prep work. I'm going to see how he's ranking, and then just go over the different things we do, similar to what I just did here. I focused on SEO, but my company, we do the whole gamut from managing social media to video to blogs to Google ads, Facebook ads, and stay pretty busy. There's a lot of work. The COVID thankfully did not hurt us, and it didn't hurt any of our clients because they actually did better. Many of them, like, have a fencing company near Spring Hill, and privacy, everybody's home more and they're in their backyard. It's like, oh, we need a fence. He just couldn't keep up with it. Same thing with even home building. It's just crazy. I'm sure everybody in the real estate business is also very busy. Well, thanks for tuning in, and if the last chance for any more questions, you can always go to the link that they provide somewhere around here, probably in the reception area. If you go down to the very bottom, they stuck me down there, and you can get my contact information, or I will put it right here. Oops. And you can actually copy that. 13 441 0275. All right, everyone, enjoy your afternoon. I'm going to go to a networking event in Sarasota at some sort of a cat thing. There's big cats there. It's a part of a group called GCBX, Gulf Coast Builders Exchange. So like I said, I like to get in with builders and meet all those tradespeople and maybe get some new business. And I hope you guys get a lot of new business, and I hope you learn something. And here's the other thing, one more thing. Realtors, you may not have the ability to do something like this on your own, but maybe you're married to a home remodeler, or maybe your friend is a plumber. So keep me in mind. Thank you.